Hi folks. In this story set, we are going to read some selected pieces from Langston Hughes, a bit from Speaks the Mountain and a bit of his poetry to get your feet wet with the Harlem Renaissance. But the primary text for this movement is the novel that we're reading for the course, which is Zora and Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. So I'm also going to include in this annotation series a video from It's Lit that gives you a little bit more detail and context about what the Harlem Renaissance was. I think it's an excellent video to sort of explore the general scope of the tradition, but for some historical context, the Harlem Renaissance is born out of the Great Migration, which is this period of time where you have millions of Black Americans from the South migrating to the North. And one of the places that became a very distilled and distinct community was in Harlem, and you have a lot of writers and artists and musicians all concentrated in this area. And what some have described the Harlem Renaissance as is an unapologetic self-assertion of Black identity. There are a lot of different schools of thought in Harlem Renaissance. It's not necessarily a homogenous movement, but it very much is about self-assertion of identity. Now, one of the things that Langston Hughes writes about, that you'll read about, is this idea that Black writers should not write for white people, so what they think white people want to read from Black writers, and they should also not write in a way that they should write authentically and true, essentially. They should no longer be whitewashing what it is that they're doing or trying to make what their community is and who they are. They should no longer be trying to make that acceptable to white society. And you see a lot of that in what the Harlem Renaissance encapsulates. And the Harlem Renaissance was a movement of art and literature and music. I mean, it encompasses so many different things. Zora Neale Hurston is a member, one of the most iconic members of the Harlem Renaissance. But she writes, you'll see this in Their Eyes Were Watching God, she writes with a Southern dialect. She writes in a way that may be a bit surprising compared to some of what you'll read from Langston Hughes, but that's just something for you to be thinking about. And this is, this is our major text for the course, for us to sort of dive into what Zora Neale Hurston's doing, how that intersects with modernism, how that intersects with the Harlem Renaissance, and how this is a sort of foundational piece of literature within the American tradition. We'll get more into that in week 4, and I look forward to talking about it more with you all, but this is a primer to get you ready for that, and I encourage you to get started reading that novel so that you are prepared to make it all the way through and get all the way into a nice, healthy discussion with it coming up.